Good morning, everyone. Welcome to World of Choice's Skilled Trades event. My name is Nicola McNevin. I'm Education Lead for JA Nova Scotia. We are very happy to have you here with us this morning. I'd like to, first of all, thank our national community partner, RBC, for supporting World of Choice's events across Canada. And I'd like to welcome my co-host today, Brett Himmelman, who is of the RBC Olympian program. Welcome, Brett. Brett has co-hosted with me for the past 2 years on these events. Brett, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much, Nicola. My name is Brett. I'm with RBC, and I'm also a Canadian national team canoeer. I've been with RBC since the fall of 2021, and a little bit of what the RBC Olympians program is that it allows me to get work experience while also they sponsor my career as an athlete. It's been a very great and flexible program, and very proud to have RBC sponsor me. And I've done work with the Junior Achievement program for the last previous year, and I'm really excited to be back.
That's super. Thank you. To begin, I would like to share an RBC welcome. I'll put the link in the chat. It is a pre-recorded welcome from our national partner, and ask that you just take a minute to share that with your students. If you could put your mics on mute while you play that, it will just take a moment. Thank you so much. It's in the chat now. So let's get rolling. I did mention a little bit about what we're going to do this morning, but to give you an idea of what it will look like, essentially there are two parts to today's event. First, we will introduce you to 4 featured career mentors within skilled trades, and each mentor will share their education and career stories with you. Then there will be a showcase of career paths, a virtual expo, where you can visit the participant booths either as a class or individually. It's up to your teacher. Visiting a showcase booth will allow you to further explore some of the training and career options available here in Nova Scotia. And before the showcase, we will go through the participant profiles together so that you can choose the booth that is most interesting and exciting to you. Before we join the showcase of career paths, we will ask for some student feedback. We have prepared some student surveys on this event that we hope teachers will help distribute to the students. And each class that completes the surveys will be put into a virtual live draw that we will do just before you head off to the showcase of career paths for a chance for your class to win a $150 Visa gift card. So we appreciate you giving us your feedback on the value of this program to you. And we'll do that together. So it should be exciting to see who gets that. And once those surveys, if you do the paper version of the surveys, once they're returned to the office, you will have another opportunity to win. We'll be giving out an additional $150 gift card for that. So thank you for your time and teachers in helping with that. So to start, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker this morning. Charlie Campbell is with the electrical faculty of the School of Trades with NSCC Strait Area Campus. Welcome, Charlie.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's an absolute treat to be able to sit here and talk about the community college, about our world of trades and technology, how it's changed. You know, it's great to have the opportunity to have an audience with teachers. Welcome teachers, guidance counselors, organizers, and of course the future, because the young women and young men that are listening to this today, you are the future. I've been at the college a long time. I'm getting old. I used to have hair just like Brett, by the way, but I don't anymore. But it's, you know, I've been around long enough to actually, my students come in the fall and I've taught their parents. So it's hard when you're a young person to think about the future sometimes. The future is next week or next month. But when you get a little older, you start to realize and you start to see generations grow up. You start to see young people blossom, but you guys really are the future. Not only in trades and technology world, but you're the future doctors, nurses, lawyers, tradesmen, engineers. So the world is a bright place. Sometimes we hear about lots of gloom and doom in our world, but the world is a bright place. And I'm thrilled to be able to talk to you here. Our industry is growing rapidly. Our economy and the construction industry right now is just booming. I've been doing this job. I've been an electrician for over 40 years. I hold a Red Seal ticket in the electrical construction industry and also the electrical industrial industry. 27 years ago, I joined the community college system, and it's been a wonderful journey, wonderful journey. I get to meet 20 new young leaders every year, see their successes. I've been at it so long now. I see, students that I've had years ago truly being the leaders in the industry today. So the future is extremely bright. The economy, it's worth talking about now because it's got such an effect on everything we do here at the community college. The economy in the construction industry and technology industry right now is booming. Like I said, I've been at it for 40 years. We've often had some booms in the construction industry, but they were never from coast to coast or from Cape North and northern Cape Breton to Yarmouth and southern Nova Scotia. There is jobs. Our programs, which I'll talk about in a minute, we see it all the time. Our students go out on work term, and the opportunity is amazing. You have to go back into the history of the community college system. I'm sitting here talking to a bunch of people today that more than likely have heard of the community college system. You more or less know the role that we play in the economy in Nova Scotia, the role that we play in the post-secondary institutions across the province, but it's not all that long ago. And I started at the community college when this was the case. Very few people knew of the community college system. Very few people. In 1996, when I started, one of our main goals was to get our brand out there and for the citizens and residents of the province of Nova Scotia to know what the community college was. We were building this world-class college, is what it's turned into, but people didn't know about us. Nowadays, everybody knows. Everybody's seen the emblem NSCC. And what we do here is we train people, we give them the knowledge, the basic experience, and the skills to get out there in the workplace and become those future leaders. Another thing that needs to be mentioned that young people may not know about today is that it's not all that long ago when there was a big divide in the thought of post-secondary education. And it kind of went like this. If you didn't go to university, you took a trade. And it was kind of thought of, if you didn't go to university or you couldn't cut it in university, you took a trade. Well, we all know, and for those that don't, we should know now that trades and technology is a viable alternative to any post-secondary education that's out there today. In terms of success, it is whatever you define success. If success is money, trades and technology. There's a wonderful financial benefits to working in the trades and technology field. If success is owning your own home, having your own family, your own car, absolutely the trades and technology, like all other post-secondary education, it's very, very valuable, very, very rewarding. I've never been unemployed. I've been an electrician for 45 years. I've never been unemployed. Very lucky. And with the community college, I'm going to become unemployed soon, but it's going to be retirement. And I'm going to enjoy that, but I will still always have my fingers in the industry somehow. What I see every year in the community college, I see the opportunity for young people. I see wonderful, bright, young people coming into our classes every day. Yeah, I understand it's grade 9 and grade 10s we're talking with now. The future is yours. The future's there to grab. If I had any advice to give you, take school seriously. And I'm going to give you a little rundown what I tell my students every year. I see every year 21 students come into my class, all bright young people, all with this, I call it the same intellectual ability, but where things differ sometimes, and I was guilty of this when I went to school, was that I didn't discipline myself and I wasn't the student I should have been. If I can give advice to anybody for the success and whatever you choose to do in the future, is become a student, become a reader, learn how to be a student. Because when you get to the post-secondary level, it's not like high school, it's not like junior high school or middle school. You're called upon to be responsible for your education. So the best study skills, the best note-taking skills, the best discipline you can have will just bode so well for you. Stay in school. If you guys out there listening to me, and I tell this to students every year, if you're wondering why you're sitting in math class and you're going, oh no, what am I doing this for? I'm never going to use this. And you come here and I'll show you exactly why you're going to use it. Getting into the trades, and I'm here to talk about all the trades. All the trades have different levels of the academic portion of them, and they also have an equal amount of practical experience. So in our trade, in our world, it's called applied learning. So you have to have theoretical classes. You have to know the ins and outs in the electrical world. It's one thing to be able to install electrical equipment, but in today's world, the electrician has to know exactly what's going on inside those wires. They have to know the characteristics of the distribution of electrical current. In carpentry, you have to know all kinds of angles and load bearing and welding. You have to know strength, and you do x-raying of welds, and it's very technical. If you're thinking that in any way, shape, or form that the trade world is not technical, the trade world is technical. In my program, every night homework, every night theoretical learning, every night code learning, and then half of our day is spent doing practical work. So there's nothing easy about skills trades anymore. It's something that needs a mature and disciplined mind to get into it, but we absolutely positively can't forget the fun part. We have an absolute ball here. One of the joys of my job is to getting to know 20 new friends every year, because that's what it ends up being in the end. And our job is to give you the skills, the education to get out there and get a job. And it's very rewarding. All the trades are busy now. Our programs here consist of, like I said, theoretical, practical training, and then at the end of our 2 semesters, we have a fall semester and a winter semester. At the end, we have what's called the spring semester, and generally what happens there is work experience. So as I'm talking to you now, my 21 students that I had this year are all out on a 5-week work term. And in the past 5 years, it's been incredible. Well over 80% of the students that have gone out with employers on work term have gained employment with that employer. And they're just right into their field. And then when you get employment, you get into what's called apprenticeship. Our programs are not apprenticeship programs. They're what we call pre-employment programs. We give you the skills to get out there and get the job, and then you become a registered apprentice with the support of an employer, and that's when the fun begins. So you start on your journey for the rest of your education, which involves about 4 to 5 years, and a break each year to return to school, 6 or 7 weeks, and then back to work. But the thrill and the best part of apprenticeship training is that you get paid to do it. So your learning is paid after you leave community college. It's rewarding. Our industry nowadays, and you'll be hearing it all day today, crying for labor, crying for skilled trades, crying for apprentices. And they've all bought into the programs. They're all out there willing to support new young people in the trade. For years, the construction industry did not grow like it is growing now. And what we ended up with was a lot of old guys like me. It's time to move them out, and it's time to bring in fresh new faces. And I always say it, you're the leaders. You're the future leaders. I have students that are running multi-million-dollar construction companies now. I have 2 lady students that I want to talk about in a minute that are both supervisors at Cape Scott, looking after all our military ships. The world is yours. It's there for the taking. I could not even venture doing this without talking about women in trades. For years, it's been the construction industry, trades and technology have been dominated by males. Absolutely, the time is up for that. There's no reason in the world why men should dominate these trades. There's no reason in the world why women are not in these trades. If you can think of all the old silly traditionals that your grandfather used to say, not strong enough, that's all. We know that that's just not true. And as a matter of fact, some of the most successful students I've had in my career are ladies. They lead the class. I don't know why, guys, but they lead the class and they set the bar. So the world is there. the community college is a very busy place. Unfortunately, we can't keep up with the demand, as a matter of fact, across the province. So some of the programs are waitlisted. And if I had any advice for you, is apply early if you're interested in the trades. Now, how do you get interested in the trades? Well, your teachers and guidance counselors I'm sure know about these programs, and I'm sure it'll be talked about today. The opportunity, one of the big things about getting any kind of post-secondary education, because you guys have so many options that I didn't have when I was young, is how do you get the information? How do you make a well-informed decision? Well, there's programs in place. We have one that's called Test Drive. I believe, don't quote me, a phone call can verify what I'm saying, but grade 11, grade 12, you can approach your teacher and your guidance counselor to come and spend a day with us at the community college in any program of your choice. We put you with a mentor, a fellow student, and the student will give you a rundown on what we do academically or theoretically, give you a rundown on what we do practically, tours of the building, anything that we can do to help you make an informed decision onto what career path you want to do, because it's so wide open, like it wasn't 30, 40 years ago. You have so many options. Contact the school at any time. Women in trades have all kinds of supports here. It's a wonderful system. I can't brag about the community college enough. I started when it was a baby, but the community college has turned into a world-class organization. One of the big things that we do really well here is we support student success. So if there's monetary issues, if there's academic issues, there's just so many things in place, so many expert people hired here to help you through. You just need to come and touch base with us. If anybody is interested in anything further to what happens today, you can contact any campus. There's 14 of them across the province. I'm coming at you live from the Strait Area campus in Port Hawkesbury. A phone call to the main number, tell them what you're interested in, and they'll make a connection with whoever you have to speak to. But the world is yours, ladies and gentlemen. It's yours. It's yours like it's never been before. The economy is rocking. The world of trades and technology is so satisfying. It's so challenging. And ladies and gentlemen, we need you. Our province needs you. That's why the effort is put into events like happening today. Love to see you here. I'm on the downhill slide. You might not see me, but you'll see a probably much more capable guy replacing me. Young guy with nice hair like Brett, not an old guy with a hair like me. Any questions? Feel free to ask. Anytime you need to talk to us, you make sure you call that number. They'll give you the email addresses of any of us here, all faculty members and all the trades. The trades are distributed across the province. Multiple campuses have electrical because it's one of the more popular ones, but carpentry, plumbing, auto mechanics, small engine repair, they're all there, and they're all rewarding careers. If you have any questions about them, you want to come and experience what we do here on a daily basis, all those programs are in place. And it's been my pleasure to get a chance to talk to you today. I think maybe my time is up, but if there's any questions out there, fire them in the chat. Maybe Nicola could pass them to me in the next minute or so.
That was perfect, Charlie. Thank you so much. What a great message to start our morning. And I would like to see if there are any questions out there. That information was extremely valuable, and you just set the tone. So in a moment, we're going to start meeting some of those mentors and digging into some of those trades and finding out what it means day to day and what those experiences look like.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you
All
very
the
much.
best. All right. So our first featured mentor today is with Halifax Transit. And I'm sure all of you are probably, or those, I guess, who have been to Halifax, visited Halifax, you're very familiar with Halifax Transit. Alex Gates is a heavy duty truck and transport, is it technician, Alex? Is that the right?
Yep.
Perfect.
Technician, yeah, but either one.
So welcome, Alex. I'm going to start you off by just asking a little bit about what that is. What is a heavy duty truck and transport technician?
So anything, everything that falls under heavy duty truck and transport would be tractor trailers, dump trucks, buses, any vehicle over 4,500 kilograms, everything with air brakes. So all the big vehicles you see rolling down the road, that's me. The flip side of this trade is just heavy duty maintenance, and that would be like excavators and off-road equipment. So this covers the on-road portion of the trade.
Okay, that's great. How did you choose this career? Like, how did you get interested in this? Was this something when you were sitting in a classroom in grade 9 to grade 10, you went, this is what I want to do?
Well, actually, I didn't know it at the time, but in high school, I took an automotive service and repair course. It was a grade 11 and a grade 12 course that I took. I really liked it. That kind of kickstarted me towards mechanics. Led me into my first job into working in garages and then fixing up cars at the time. It was later that I got into the heavy duty side, but it was a high school course that got me kind of more interested in it.
That's great. Brett, do you have a question for Alex?
Yes, of course. You mentioned that it was a high school course that started your interest in this. What was the follow-up education that you took afterwards to get certified to be able to do the job in this role?
So afterward, it was 2 courses in high school. I had a little bit of a break between high school and getting into the trade. I moved away from it, but it was getting into the apprenticeship afterwards. This trade offers a 2-year core program as well, so that's an option for anyone that's interested. If they're in a high school course and want to lead right into it, NSCC offers a really good program. It's 2 semesters that you stay in school the whole time, and then you come out a little bit further ahead in your apprenticeship than just starting from square one.
I think that's really attractive to some students, is that you get out there right away and you can start your education skills training. Can you talk about, is there any other applied skills training that you've done? So Charlie mentioned like Red Seal or something like that. Is there anything in addition that you have done?
Yeah, so I'm during the apprenticeship, like NSCC offers other courses. I took a refrigeration course so that I can work on the AC portion of truck and transport vehicles. This is called the Green Card, but it's the same course that you would take doing HVAC. It's all the same. It's all the same stuff that's in there. So you're doing the same course. Later on, after completing my Red Seal, there's so much training through manufacturers and OEMs, dealerships. I've gone on Cummins engine training, Allison transmission training. I worked in the oil field for a number of years in this trade. So I've gone on some specific training for oil field specific vehicles. That was a really cool thing to get to work on. Whatever avenue, there's different avenues in this trade too. Like there's the trailer portion of it. There is the engine portion of it. There's a whole new lane opening up for electric vehicles and hydrogen vehicles. That is like, this is a really cool time to get into this trade because it's all changing. So that'll be training that's going to open up. It's going to open a lot of doors for people that are like young people getting into this trade. But to answer your question, I've gone on engine specific training, trailer specific training, transmissions. There is emissions based stuff to keep air clean. That's heavily endorsed in the industry, which now is shifting to the electric side to clean it up even more. But there's a lot of additional training out there.
That's really interesting, Alex. Actually, we had a French event for the French schools last week for World of Choices, and there was a automotive technician who spoke, and they said that it's almost daily how quickly things are changing, and that the requirement to just continually learn and keep up with the trends, like you said, more energy efficient or electric automotive, I guess, engines and things like that. So can you talk a little bit about that, how that, and because you see it every day with Halifax Transit, you see the hybrid buses and we'll probably soon be at full electric buses. I don't know, but can you speak a little to that?
Absolutely. We're making a shift to be closer to net zero on our emissions and everything. A lot of places are, but we're still primarily diesel-based engines, but we are moving to closer to an electric fleet, and then possibly hydrogen. We're looking at that as well. Hydrogen's a really cool option, because if you build what you need to build, you can create your own fuel. It's really cool. We just ordered our electric buses. We were the largest initial order of Nova electric buses in the country, so we're making a really big shift to electric. It may not be all electric fleet. We're looking at kind of every option, like hydrogen, natural gas, which has been around for a while. Hydrogen's been around for a while too, but it just hasn't been used. The idea is to get away from diesel altogether. A lot of places are doing that. And a lot of, even on the automotive side, there's a lot of car manufacturers that are moving heavily electric as well.
That's
it's
right.
really exciting to see just such a changing role and then changing field that you're in. You talked a lot about the different types of training and like what are some of these skills that are important for not just your trade but also like transferable to other trades that you've learned over the years?
Like Charlie touched on, like you're learning that you're doing now that you think is, when am I going to use this? You are. You really are. And sometimes you realize it a little later and it feels like it's too late because you have to relearn a lot of stuff. When you're younger, it's easier to kind of take all that stuff in. So when you're in school, like math, like Charlie said, critical thinking is a big one. So that's through every course. You're given problems that you need to solve. You're given courses or projects that you need to finish, tests. That's all going to help you out in any trade when you get down the road. In mechanics, we're fixing broken stuff. So it's when it breaks, we have to figure out why it's broken, how to fix it. In electrical, you're doing the same thing, but sometimes you're just setting it up. You're putting the initial install. So you're figuring out what components need what and how to wire it in. In carpentry, you're doing the same thing. You're building it and you're measuring everything out. So when you're in high school, the stuff that you're learning now and the kind of getting you to think in a certain way and problem solve, that's going to help you out through every trade and outside of school too, your whole life.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point. And so I imagine if you could talk a little bit about the day-to-day, like what do you actually do? So I imagine, I see a bus pulled over, it's dead on the road. Somehow it gets to you. And then how do you even begin when you talk about problem solving like that? We're going to talk about those transferable skills that the students they already have them, right? So it's already part of building their professional skill set. How do you even begin? What's your day look like?
Well, at Halifax Transit, we've got a big group of mechanics and body mechanics. But to use your example, if there's a bus broken down on the road, it can be a multitude of problems. A really common one now, because the trade is kind of electrically driven, even though it's diesel engines. These engines could have 40 plus sensors on them. So if an engine light comes on and the bus breaks down, we're going to go in, we're going to kind of try and isolate that problem as much as we can to a certain area. So we're going to use the tools we have, like computer software, and then kind of go through the steps of breaking it out. So the day-to-day is you're handed out the job from your supervisor. Depending on what component of the bus that is, you're going to start to try and problem solve on what got it there, what created the problem, how much damage that problem did, and how to fix it. And then alongside of that is you got to make a choice. Sometimes, there's more than one path of repair, and some paths are very expensive, others aren't. Some paths you got to look at safety too. So like sometimes the quickest and cheapest fix is not an option because it's unsafe. So you got a lot to think about. Where everyone's sitting watching now, you're building those skills and you'll use them.
That's great. Brett, I'll hand it over to you. What questions do you have for Alex?
Yeah. So like, what do you enjoy most about like your job and what you do? Like we talked a little bit about your day to day, but like what gets you excited for your job and for work every day?
For me, it's the fix. So I like when something comes in. kind of off the floor a bit now as the superintendent at Transit, but when I was making the repairs, I like the engine light side of it because it's a puzzle. But for me, I like the fix. I like kind of solving the problem, trying to find out what's wrong. And then when you make the repair, you just took something that wasn't working at all and now it's fixed and you did that yourself. I find it really, really rewarding to take a big vehicle that's broken down on the side of the road and then you get it moving again.
There must be a great sense of accomplishment when it comes with that. We also have a first question that came into the chat from one of the classrooms. What is the expected salary for a heavy duty truck and transport operator?
Yeah, that varies. That it'll vary from the level you are in your apprenticeship to your red seal, and then what kind of training you have on top of the red seal. So I mentioned you can get engine specific like Cummins or Allison transmissions or whatever. All those extra little things can help you get a pay boost. But it'll vary from anywhere at the bottom end closer to $25 an hour up to $45 right now in Nova Scotia. So the high end is, I mean, that's a good wage. You can make a really good living. Like Charlie said, when I started in this, I dropped out of kind of mechanics and moved towards university and I have a business background as well because I made that shift, ultimately didn't like it and got back into trades. And there's nothing wrong with university. I'm not saying that. But there was a drive that was kind of what you were supposed to do and trades were a backup. And like Charlie said, if you're more interested in trades, it's not just a backup. There's a lot of successful career paths in trades, and this one is one of them. Like my path was a little bit different. Not every path is a straight line, so you'll just get there. I ended up in the trade as a mechanic on night shift at Transit, up into as a foreman, and now the superintendent in Burnside. So you're not just limited to being a mechanic as well. If you put the work in, there's a lot of opportunity up there.
Thanks, Alex. That's brilliant too. And whenever we have, the opportunity to talk to mentors, nobody has a straight path, right? And that's a beautiful thing, just that you keep all those career options open. And Charlie keeps saying, the world is yours, but as long as you're making positive choices and going forward, it's incredible how you can change career, but that all of those things are added value to your future, right? Can you talk a little bit about, because you brought this up, and I think sometimes there's sort of this myth of the mechanic is like under the car with a wrench. And can you talk a little bit about, you said about how it's all sensor driven and how technology has changed the trade and how it continues to change in that sense?
Absolutely. So there is the wrench side of things still. That won't change where there are a lot of big components. But even since I got into this trade, the electronic side of it is huge. So you're diagnosing with laptops, you're diagnosing with software. So like young people today have such an advantage where the computer software, it's nothing to them. Like it's so common. So it being sensor driven, you could have a day where you're making the repair all with the computer. You've got programming issues inside the buses or the truck's computer that you can fix with your software. That was my favorite part of it. I like turning wrenches too, but it's pretty cool to see the inner workings. A lot of trucks and buses, like now, they look like big clunky vehicles, but they're a lot smarter than people think. Our buses, some of them have up to 50 onboard computers on them, and that all talk to each other simultaneously. So they read inputs and create outputs. So if I'm, for example, if I turn the switch to open the doors because the doors are air activated, they say, Alex, their dummy behind the wheel there wants to open the doors. It takes an input into one computer, and then 40 feet at the back of the bus, the other computer says, oh, I got that input, and they make the output. So if there's a programming problem between the two or a communication problem between the two, you're going to see that with the computer. If you know what you're looking at, they call it the ladder logic, because they need to see each rung of the ladder to make the output. And if you understand that, then your day might not just be laying under the bus or the truck With a wrench, your day could be kind of problem solving on software, and the industry's moving that way even more and more and more. So it's really cool.
That's amazing. Yeah. And you spoke to like the youth and the younger generation and their ability to have that, they just have that natural digital literacy, right? Like that's a skill that they already have to bring into the workplace. That's amazing. Brett, what questions do you have? And then we're going to open it up to the teachers and the students.
Yeah, of course. My last question would be if you have like any advice for any of the students who are listening here today, what would you give them?
My advice for listening, if you're interested in the trade, don't heavy duty gets a bad rap because it's big stuff. It's, you know, I'm not going to be able to do that. I can't, the parts are too big. If you're interested in it, go for it. Give it a shot. Like I said, the path isn't a straight line. If you don't like it in the end, that's fine. My path did circles. I moved backwards at times, so it's okay. There's tooling out there, you know, you're not expected to lift parts and put parts on that weigh as much as you do. Anyone can do it if they put their mind to it. So if you have interest in it, take a shot.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Alex, for your time and answering the questions. I definitely felt like I've learned a lot about you and in an area and an industry that I felt like I didn't know as much about. If anybody has any questions that they want to put in the chat, we'd be happy to ask them out loud for Alex.
Rebecca Whedon's class has a question. What is the most important skill you would need for this career?
I'd say, I guess, critical thinking or problem solving. That's the majority of your day. Is, like I said, you're taking something broken, you're figuring out why it's broken, and then you're making the fix. So that I'd give that. But alongside of that, that's kind of that's the basis of it. But that computer knowledge is, like we talked about, is huge. The industry's going there, and where everything's going to be electrically driven, math is going to be big because electricity, there's a lot of math involved there. Charlie could attest to. But yeah, I would say the biggest skill. The rest you're going to use alongside of it, but it's critical thinking.
Thanks, Alex. I have another question, actually. Can you speak a little bit about the demand? And I know skilled trades across the country, you know, the huge demand, but just what you see day to day in your work environment.
For heavy duty truck and transport mechanics, it's huge. There's not enough of us in the province. Because this trade transfers hand in hand to the oil field. When the oil field booms, they're all out. That's where I was for years, but even across the country right now, talking to other transit depots and friends that I know in the trade across the country, there's an outcry for heavy duty truck and transport mechanics. The wages in Nova Scotia just increased a little bit. So to try and entice people to come in and start this trade. And like Charlie mentioned too, there's a there was a gap between when you know, a generation that was heavily trade oriented and then university oriented. So we got a lot of people retiring, and not as many people have filled the shoes. So there's a big outcry for mechanics in this trade.
That's great. And we do have a question from Catherine Creaser's class. What are some of the challenges in your job?
All right, so it's messy. You're gonna get dirty. Really dirty. You gotta although and alongside of that said that, you know, there's tooling to lift everything, but it's a physical job. If you're on the computer based side, then that's great, but there are days where it's physically demanding. Not that anybody can do this trade. We have lots. We've got men and women of all shapes and sizes in our shop, in between Halifax Transit, Dartmouth, and Halifax locations, and everybody can do this trade. But you're kind of going all day. It can be very tiring. So you got to be able to kind of overcome that.
That's great. Thank you, Alex. We're going to let you go. I know you're busy. Thank you so much for your time today. That was super. I appreciate you taking the time to be here and share that with the students. I'm going to throw one more question at you because it takes a minute for the students to get it translated through the teacher onto the chat.
Yep.
Where is this career most in demand? Is it local to Nova Scotia, or is this a national demand?
Right now, I can't speak for every province, but I know people in the trade here in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Ontario, BC, and Alberta that are all, there's shops across the country looking for mechanics. There's a big demand in Nova Scotia, but it's not just here. It's across the country.
That's great. Thank you, Alex. Okay, this time I'm really going to let you go.
All right. Thanks, guys. It was my pleasure to be here. I think this is a great event. Thank you very much.
Super. Take care.
Cheers.
Thank you, Alex.
Time is tight, and we are just on schedule for our next mentor. So I'm going to keep going now, and we'll take a little break after this. But I believe we have Grace Sampson is on the call. I did see Grace earlier. Grace is a carpentry apprentice. Hi, Grace. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
I'm great. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I don't know if you were here for the keynote address, but it was mentioned about the change in skilled trades and the sort of new space for females. So you are the perfect example of how times are changing in the carpentry trade. Can you speak to how you got interested in this?
Well, I was actually in high school. I took it's called production tech. It's like wood shop, and it was the only thing I was interested in. My teacher actually came to me and said, I think you should really look at a carpentry job. You're really good at it. You know what you're doing. You should look at management eventually. So that's what I'm kind of leaning towards now. So, and then I kind of went from there. I took the 2 years at NSCC for carpentry, and now I'm a third-year apprentice.
Amazing. Congratulations. I'm going to give it to Brett to ask you some questions because I'm hogging all the question time.
That's okay. Would you like to talk about what like your typical workday is, like being a carpentry assistant?
A lot of it being assistant, you gather a lot of materials. A lot of the guys, they'll let you think about what you have to do and what has to be done. They'll kind of like lead you towards how to do it and stuff. And if you ever need help, they'll be like, oh, like this is actually how you do it, not this way. I'm trying to think what I do on a daily basis right now. I'm actually down at the new NSCC Sydney waterfront. So I'm doing a lot of the T-bar ceiling and finish work right now.
It's that's awesome that like how long have you been doing this for?
I've been doing it since I was 17, so right out of high school, and I'm now 26.
That's amazing. Am I right that you did an apprenticeship program?
Yeah, I'm currently in the apprenticeship program. So mine, it's 4 different blocks. I took my 2 first blocks in school for the NSCC program, and then I went back to write my 3rd block, and now I have to register to do my 4th block and then write my Red Seal exam.
So for the students who probably don't really understand what the apprenticeship looks like, can you explain a little bit for you how that worked?
Yep. So in carpentry, you can register to be an apprentice right away and then work, but you can also take the 2-year program at NSCC. And coming out of that after 2 years, you're kind of halfway through your apprenticeship. And then it's up to you to go back for your 3rd year once you have so many hours. I'm not exactly sure how many hours that is right now. So then you write your 3rd year, and then you go back after you have so many hours for your 4th year. And then I think it's a week after your 4th year exam, you write your Red Seal exam. If you choose to, you don't have to write the Red Seal exam, but it's definitely worth it.
And what do you enjoy most about your job? You started at 17 years old, and you're still doing it to date. So you must love what you do. Tell me a little bit about that.
My favorite part of it is the finish work. I really like going into a space and being able to like do the flooring and make it look pretty. I don't really enjoy the heavy brunt work of things because that is very hard on your body. just give me 1 second. Okay, come here. I'm sorry. Yeah, doing like all the finish work, going in, just making it look nice. That's probably my favorite part.
Oh, hi. So
This is Maggie.
Grace, is this your child?
This is my second daughter, Maggie May. She
Hi,
is
Maggie.
homesick today.
So this is perfect, actually, because here we are. We have a woman in the trades who is a mama too. Can you talk a little bit about your work-life balance? How do you make this work?
Fortunately, I do have a very good boss, so I'm able to take days off to stay home with my children when they are sick. They do have full-time daycare, but unfortunately, I do have to miss days because of them. But I find when you have a good support system around you that works with you, you're able to do stuff like that.
That's great. And can you talk a little bit about what it's like? So am I correct in that your work environment would probably be mostly males when you go to work? And can you talk about how that is? So if there's some young women on the call that are just sort of like, I don't know how comfortable I'd be. And like you said, you don't like all the heavy lifting, and maybe there's some things about the job that may make you might feel a little intimidated about being a woman in the space. Can you speak to any experience you've had around that?
At first I was very shy to do anything, but after years, I just kind of go with the flow. Nothing really bothers me anymore. I've had sexual comments towards me and everything, but I find you just kind of have to brush it off. And it gets too far, you do have to report stuff and go from there. You just need to keep your head up.
Yeah, no, I imagine. Good for you for building the way for young women going forward. And I think, as Charlie said, the industry is changing dynamically. Brett, what questions do you have for Grace?
Yes. So what is like the current demand for this trade in Nova Scotia here right now, would you say?
We're expecting a lot of people to retire in the next 5 years. Probably 40% of the carpenters to retire. So there is going to be huge demand. There is a lot of work coming to Sydney itself. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not too sure about the rest of Nova Scotia, but I do know Sydney is getting a few really big jobs coming up after we finish the NSCC program. So huge demand for carpentry in Nova Scotia right now.
That's great. We've been touching on transferable skills, so those skills that you have that not necessarily are specific to the training that you get, but so I imagine for you, persistence, one of those things that you're determined to keep going. Is there anything else that you can speak to that would be a skill that you say would be required for carpentry?
Trying to think. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You have your hands full.
Yeah. Nothing that I can really think of right now.
You mentioned, leaving things, making things prettier, leaving them, looking refined. So I imagine perhaps attention to detail or that ability to.
Yes, that would definitely be one of them.
That's great.
And like, what would be like your advice for someone who would you give to a student who's interested in this trade? Like you started this right out of high school, which is a few years away for some of the students on the call here. What would you be your advice for those students, not just when they get to that point, but for the years leading up to it?
I'm kind of going to aim this at young females right now. Don't be scared. Take that leap of faith and just go for it if you really want to do it. You can even try. There's a good program called Women Unlimited through NACC, and it's, I think, a 10-day course maybe, and you go into each trade, and you spend a whole day there doing things. So definitely just go for it.
That's great advice. And you're right. The Women Unlimited program is amazing. I'm going to put it out to teachers and students what questions they have for Grace. And in the meantime, Grace, can you talk a little bit about pay scale? So starting out in the industry and opportunities to grow?
Yeah. So I started at a renovation company, so I wasn't getting paid what I should have. So I definitely recommend going union because you get your fair wage with the union. Right now I make 25, 40, I think, an hour. And then with my Red Seal, I'll get, I think, 34 an hour. But definitely the union has a higher pay scale that you do deserve compared to a renovation company where you're only going to get paid minimum wage most times, if not $1 more than that. So
that's great advice. Do we have any questions for Grace?
My apologies, I had the mic turned off. But if anybody has any questions from the class or from the audience, we can put them in the chat and we can pass them along to Grace. But just wanted to talk a little bit about where do you see like the future? Where do you see like the next steps of the development of your career?
Well, I want to finish my Red Seal. And then there's a new course called the Blue Seal. It's all of the management, all the business side of the Red Seal, of the trade, sorry. So I do want to get into that and eventually be the boss one day.
Well, that's really exciting, and I wish you all the best for that.
Thank you.
That's great. We do have a question from a teacher, Grace. How many hours do you usually work per week? What's your work week look like?
40 hours a week. When I worked for the residential company, it was 50 hours a week.
Okay. And is that Monday to Friday, sort of regular business hours?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Monday to Friday. And actually Friday working for the unions, I get off at 10:30 in the morning. So I only work 7 to 10:30. Every other day it's 7 to 4:30.
That's a great schedule, especially when you have 2 kids at home, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a great question in the chat. What different industries can carpentry be applied to?
Oh. Different industries. I can't think.
1, 2, 3,
Give me
4, 5, 6,
like different trades.
7, 8,
Yeah, like just like where like where does like where do you apply your job to?
Oh, okay. Everywhere is like houses. You can do. I did a lot of houses actually, and like huge buildings. Those are all carpentry now. It's not really laborers anymore. It's more the carpentry side. Like grocery stores, malls, carpenters are everywhere.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is everywhere, I think, right? Commercial business and home business and also I think transferable, like Alex was speaking, you know, things we don't even think about sometimes, you know, like oil refineries or things like that, where there's opportunity, there is need for construction. Wherever there's construction, there's carpentry.
Yeah.
For sure. Thank you so much, Grace. We're just going to give it another minute to see if there's any other questions. Oh, Catherine has another question. What's your work environment like? Are you indoors or outdoors?
I'm actually indoors. All the outdoor work was finished before I got down there. So I'm indoors, but we do have like big heaters and stuff. So it's very fun. It's not like cold any days. I wear like a t-shirt and jeans most days.
I think one of the things that we haven't touched on yet, but I think there's with any skilled trade, there's a huge need for safety and safety training. Can you talk a little bit about where that comes into play in carpentry?
Yeah, so we use a lot of scissor lifts and stuff. So anytime I'm in those, I have to be harnessed in. Every day I have to have my PPE, so my boots, I have to wear my hard hat, my safety glasses, and at the site that I'm on, I have to wear a vest all the time with the reflective stripes. Trying to think what else. You have to have special training to be on any of the lifts, and to use the bigger machines like the telehandler and forklifts and stuff, you have to have special training. And usually there's only 1 or 2 people on site allowed to use it. It doesn't matter if you have your ticket or not. They're just assigned people for that site. Okay. There's also a safety guy that comes around daily just to check on us, see what we're doing, see if we're doing it safely. I'm sorry, she's not feeling very good
No,
today.
it's fine. She's adorable.
Yes, there's a bunch of safety in play.
And we have time for about 1 or 2 more questions if anybody has them in the audience. Thank you so much for your time, Grace. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to speak with the classes and the audience and ourselves at Junior Achievement here.
Yep, thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Grace, and wish you all the best and best of luck, and hope your little one, little Maggie May, feels better soon.
Thank you. Can you say bye-bye?
Like,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, so that is the completion of our second mentor. We have 2 featured mentors coming up, but we are going to take a little break. I'm going to say, I'm going to give you folks about 5 minutes. I will set a countdown clock. You can get up, have a stretch, and we'll see you back very shortly. Okay, folks, hopefully we are back. Welcome back. Just wanted to give everyone a little break there for a stretch and a little debrief. Thanks for hanging in and staying tuned. We are super thrilled with the mentors that we have with us today. Thanks to Alex and Grace and Charlie for starting this event off for us in such a very valuable way. The next couple of minutes before we take a longer break, a 15-minute break, so you can have a snack or whatever, we just wanted to reflect a little bit on those transferable skills that they spoke to. And for those that maybe are wondering, you know, what do you mean by that, or what are you talking about? I'm going to bring Brett in here just to talk about a little bit. If you can speak for your own experience, Brett, before you actually get your training or your education, when you're 14, 15 years old, that skill set that you already have that you may not even be aware of. And as a competitor, can you speak to some of those sort of success skills that you have, that you've worked on to make you successful?
Of course. I mean, I grew up playing sports at such a young age, and not only was I involved in sports, but I was also involved in other like volunteer community opportunities. And each experience, whether it's from an academic standpoint, an athletic standpoint, or from like community involvement or whatever you decide that you're doing with your life or your time, there's transferable skills to all of it. A big example of me being a part of team sports for the majority of my life, and even as an individual sport of canoeing myself, there is a big team aspect. Transferable skills such as like leadership and communication are really important, not just for me and my sport, but as I'm transitioning from sport to my work career as well too, and starting to be involved in both. The skills that I learned from sports are skills that I use in everyday life in my career as well too. Whether it's like taking notes when somebody speaks, or it's listening to your coach, those communication skills that you develop growing up are skills that you use every single day, and it's not even like you're consciously using them. When you develop them, whether it's in junior high, high school, university, they just become natural, and they're just skills that you use daily without even thinking of them. Collaboration, whether it's through in my sport, we all train as a group. Anywhere between 6 to 10 of us might be training together. The benefits of collaboration and working together to try and push ourselves, that's not just a skill that you use in our sport, but it's also a skill that I use in my office setting when you have 4 or 5 people working on a project. it's you get more work done, and you also get a higher quality of work done. And all these skills that I use on a daily basis are not just important for myself, but they're important for helping those around me too.
That's perfect. Yeah, and I just had a screen share there. And so they say secret language, but when you're applying for a job, regardless if it's your first job, when you're starting out, or or you're a seasoned career professional, they're always looking for those. The first things they talk about are your collaboration skills, teamwork, communication skills. Over and over again this morning, critical thinking, persistence, just those things that we can be working on now, regardless of the career that you choose to go into, or what you choose to do with your future. And just to, so what is a transferable skill? It's a skill and ability that can be applied in different areas of your life, such as your social life, your professional life, your academic life. As Brett said, any school team or social environment that you're in, these are skills that you're using all the time. So to be conscious of those and to see opportunities to improve or work on those skills is incredibly important for your future success. So I have, go ahead, Brett. Yeah.
As well as one thing too that I've learned through the RBC Future Launch program. So before I was even an RBC Olympian, I was an RBC Future Olympian, which I did workshops with the Future Launch. The RBC Future Olympian program is through Training Ground, and it is just a sponsorship. There wasn't the work component as a part of it too. But when I applied for the work component part at RBC, one of the things that they taught me through the Future Launch is that there's only two answers whether it's in an interview or if it's a teacher asking you a question or a coach. There's yes, I can do it, or there's yes, I can learn to do it. And those two answers are two things that I've kind of taken with me, not just in my career as a sport, but it's something that every single day, no matter what project or practice or whatever I'm trying to tackle, that those are the only two answers that I have in my mind.
I love that. That's great. I have a little poll that I hope will work. I am going to launch a little question answer here, and see if you can see that. It says it's live. Is that working? And teachers, you can ask your students. Are you able to see those polls? The question is, taking notes while someone speaks is an example of which type of transferable skill? And we have one vote in there. Taking notes while someone speaks is an example of which type of transferable skill? Critical thinking, communication, digital literacy, or adaptability? We have one vote for critical thinking, 3 votes for communication skills, 2 votes for adaptability skills. Brett, what do you think?
I would say it's communication skills. And any time when you're conversing and passing along information, but just because communication skills is one of them, there's multiple skills that are used that are all in one. There's no wrong answer as per se.
Super, that's great. We have time for one more. I'm gonna do one more here. For those that can see, and for those that can, if you want to use the chat or have a discussion with your class, cooperating, sharing ideas, and working with a group are examples of which type of transferable skill? So cooperating, sharing ideas, and working with a group. Would that be digital literacy, persistence, financial literacy, or collaboration? The votes are coming in fast now. So this one, everyone agrees that this is the skill of collaboration. That's great. Brett, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I touched in a bit about collaboration when I was talking earlier, and the ability to be able to share ideas, work in a group. You're not just using your own creative thinking, critical thinking skills. You're combining all of them as a group, and I find for myself, I learn a lot from others in listening to others see, just because I think something is one way. Some people might see it a different way through a different line of thinking. You can learn from both people, and it only just makes yourself better and develop those skills even more.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We have a couple of more questions. If we have time as we move along, we'll do that. But right now, I do want to give you a little bit of an extended morning break. We are running a little bit late. Let me see, when is our next mentor? 10:35. So we'll take a 10-minute break now, if that's okay with everyone. Enjoy your 10 minutes. I'll set the clock and we'll see you soon. We are very happy to continue, and I'm excited to, actually, Brett, I'm going to let you introduce the next host. I keep talking. Tell me to stop.
Yes, of course. Very happy to introduce Chris Harding, who's the Senior Planning Manager at the IMP Aerospace. Chris, welcome. We're very happy to have you here with us, speaking to the classes and junior achievement. To start off, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role and what you do?
Yes, thanks very much. Happy to do this. Happy for the opportunity. So thanks very much for having me. So I'm the Senior Planning Manager at IMP Aerospace. So I look after a department called Production Engineering, and on the aircraft that we repair and overhaul here, everything needs to be, all of the work that's carried out on the aircraft needs to be documented and accounted for by the technicians, the men and women on the hangar floor that work on the aircraft. So our department, Production Engineering, is responsible for issuing the work orders or work instructions to the technicians, so the aircraft can be torn down and repaired and built back up and flight tested and delivered. So my department generates those work instructions. We also estimate the work as well. So depending on the nature of the job and the complexity of the job, the planners and estimators that work for me will assign estimates to those work orders as well. So that's my current role. I manage that production engineering department here at IMP. A little bit about my background. So I grew up in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. Went to high school there. So when I was in high school, a long time ago, as I'm sure you all can guess, but I really didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I was interested in aviation. I was interested in aircraft. So I was originally leaning toward becoming a mechanic or a aircraft maintenance engineer. And then my guidance counselor in college had connected me with a program in Thunder Bay, Ontario called Aviation Manufacturing Engineering Technology, which is a mouthful, but it's a 3-year program, and it's still ongoing in Thunder Bay at Confederation College. It's similar to, there's a similar program at NSCC called Mechanical Engineering Technology. And we've actually taken a lot of graduates from that program from NSCC into our department here as planners and estimators. The main difference between the program I took and that one is the program I took was a 3-year program. It was definitely had a heavy emphasis on aircraft and the aviation industry, whereas the NSCC program is a little bit more general, I suppose, and it kind of prepares you for, I mean, you could go into a multitude of industries after you graduate from that program. So I chose to go to take that program in Thunder Bay. Between my second and third years of college, I managed to get a summer position for a few months at Bristol Aerospace. That was called Bristol Aerospace at the time. That was in Winnipeg. And then when I graduated, I went back for my third year, graduated, and they asked me to come back full time. So that's where I started my career, was actually at Bristol Aerospace in Winnipeg. They're now called Magellan. They were bought out probably about 25 years ago now by a company called Magellan. So that name is probably more familiar to people today. So we I spent 10 years there through the 1990s. I had a short stint at Standard Aero, and they overhaul turboprop engines. So I was at Standard for about a year, and then I went back to Bristol, or now Magellan. And at Bristol, I was a planner, so I was doing the job that I manage now. Planning and estimating on a different aircraft repair and overhaul program. That was a CF-5 fighter jet. That aircraft's now retired, but that was a really interesting program. It was designed to be the lead-in trainer for the CF-18 fighter. So it was a very dynamic, very interesting program. We did a lot of modifications to that aircraft, structural modifications, avionics modifications. So that was an interesting program. And then I was able to, being from Yarmouth, I kind of always had my eye open toward coming back to Nova Scotia. So in 2000, I got the opportunity to get on here with IMP Aerospace out at the airport. And at that point in time, they had just won a contract with the U.S. Navy to overhaul their Sea King helicopters, or their H-3 helicopters. And even if you're not familiar with Sea King, you might be, because if you've seen the president fly around, President Biden or Obama or Trump, all the presidents use that big green helicopter that you see them take off and land at the White House. That's an H-3, that's a Sea King. And the U.S. Navy flew literally hundreds of those over the years. So we had a repair and overhaul contract for those helicopters. That's a program that I started on. I spent about 5 or 6 years, I guess, here at IMP, and then I was promoted to the manager role. And so I started taking care of all of the intermediate, junior, and senior planner estimators in the company. So I moved into management in about 2006, 2007. I spent about 5 or 6 years doing that, and then I went into program management, which is a little bit different. That's basically where they give you an aircraft, or they give you a program, whether it's modification or repair and overhaul program, and you are responsible for the entire project. So not only the technicians and the mechanics and avionics technicians on the hangar floor, but you're also responsible for the material side of things, the planning and estimating, the contracts, you name it, basically engineering as well. It all kind of comes under program management, and you are trying to orchestrate the different departments to work together to make the program a success. And then in 2019, I came back to production engineering. That was after my stint more than a stint, I guess, 6 or 7 years in program management, and I've been back with production engineering ever since in 2019. So my background is for education-wise is a technologist through the community college in Thunder Bay, but it really, that program I found really prepared me for. I could have gone into a number of different areas within the aircraft industry. And I'll be honest, like when I think back to high school, and I think back to when I was trying to decide what it was I wanted to do, I was very, when it came to aircraft and aviation, I kind of thought, well, you're a pilot, you're a flight crew, you either fly in them or you fix them. And really what wasn't apparent to me at the time was there is a whole other universe of support type activities. And so that was a bit of an eye opener to me. And that program in Thunder Bay really, really opened my eyes to the fact that, it's not only the men and women that turn wrenches on the aircraft, and it's not only the pilots and the flight crew that fly them, but there is a massive, massive support element to the aircraft industry. Whether it's purchasing, the buyers who buy the parts and hardware, the contracts people who set up the contracts, like our department who plan and estimate the work that's carried out on the aircraft. There's a whole realm of support work that wasn't apparent to me at the start, but became pretty apparent to me, as I moved through that course, that technologist course, and out into the workforce.
That's really interesting, Chris. Thanks. And I want to say that IMP Aerospace and Defense, I believe, is going to be present at our showcase at the end. So for more questions and opportunities around careers possible through IMP, there'll certainly be an opportunity for students to talk to some of your colleagues, I believe, there. Can you just speak to a little bit, because I think it's really amazing when we talk. So, our next mentor on the call, Irving Shipbuilding, IMP Aerospace and Defense, the type of huge, like you said, the helicopters that the presidents fly, or those contracts, that we're doing some really amazing big jobs through huge huge opportunities within Nova Scotia that I think sometimes people aren't aware of. We think of us as like, the East Coast, sometimes the poor cousins of Vancouver or Ontario. But I think it's really great to highlight these opportunities. These are like really heavy hitters, and the opportunities in skilled trades or technician technology. Can you speak a little bit about IMP and your role in those contracts?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've done recently in the last year is I've gone on a number of recruiting trips, because we are challenged from a resource standpoint across all areas of the company, not just technicians, although we certainly need technicians. But and one of the things I found is, to your point, is as we go to Ontario, we go to Manitoba, and we go to career fairs and on these recruiting efforts, how little is known about IMP. And even in the local area, people may have heard of us, but they don't know exactly what we do. And we do some pretty cool work. I mean, we take care of the entire fleet of search and rescue helicopters, the Cormorant search and rescue helicopters. We do heavy maintenance on those. We also have a presence at the bases, so Greenwood and Gander and Comox, where the search and rescue helicopters are based out of. We take care of the CP-140 Aurora, the maritime patrol aircraft. We've done a number of extensive modifications on that aircraft over the years. We just finished 2 years ago, we did our last structural upgrade to the Aurora, and that will see it through to, it'll be flying well into the 2030s, if not beyond. And what we did on that program, we replaced the wings, brand new wings from Lockheed. They manufactured brand new wings of the aircraft, a brand new horizontal stabilizer on the tail. So those were all areas on that aircraft that were prone to wear and tear and cracking and that type of thing over the years. So we're talking like heavy maintenance that we perform here, and it is some very, very interesting work. No 2 days are the same, that's for sure. So yeah, a little bit about IMP, I guess, and just the type of work we do that not a lot of people know about, and it usually raises some eyebrows. I mean, at the career fairs that we've gone to, people will ask about us and say, well, IMP, and usually my first question is, have you heard of us, and do you know what we do? And usually the answer is no. Tell me more. So I'll go into a bit of detail as far as the work that we do. But yeah, I mean, and I don't know if we're off the radar or low on people's radar by design or not, but certainly the way the current job climate is now, and the fact that we need the number of resources that we do, we can't be that way anymore. We got to get out there and let people know exactly what we do, and the work we do is pretty cool.
It's very cool. Brett, what question do you have for Chris?
Yeah, and I mean, I just learned what IMP is for the first time in this call here today. So it's really interesting to hear about what you do. But I want to touch into where you mentioned where you did your education. Yours was very aerospace specific, but you mentioned the program in NSCC that you've hired graduates from before. That's a bit more general and covers a wide area. Like, what do you think are some of the skills that are in your trade that are learned in this general program that kind of transfer not just to your industry, but also other industries as well?
Yeah, I think math for sure. The math that's taught in those technologist programs that comes in into play for sure. That program covers it does cover project management as well, and scheduling, and how to actually oversee a project. They've got like a final project that gets pretty intense, and it basically teaches you how to set goals. You have your project that you want to, that's your deliverable that you want to deliver to the customer, and if you look at it on a whole, it's a little bit daunting, but it teaches you how to break projects down into goals, how to achieve milestones, the work that needs to go into each of those milestones. That's one of the bigger, certainly for production engineering, that's one of the bigger skills that we look for from that program. The other thing as well is how to work as part of a team, how to communicate to other individuals, how to work together, how to relate to a customer if you've got a deliverable for a customer. That's huge. And the other thing is technical writing as well. So writing skills. That's one of the big things in the aircraft industry. Everything is documented, everything is written down. So if I, as a planner, if I've got an issue on the aircraft that I need to communicate to engineering to get their assistance with, I need to make sure that I communicate that in a clear and coherent way that they can interpret. So those are probably the big heavy hitter skills, I think, from those programs.
Thank you very much. You really touched on a lot of great points there. If there's any questions for any of the students that come in the chat, we have another 2 minutes to answer any questions. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. I definitely really appreciated, and I was very intrigued listening to not just what you do, but also what your company does as well too.
No worries.
And,
Yeah.
First question from the audience here, and what salary ranges exist in your industry from entry level and beyond?
So for planners, in my department, production engineering, so a junior planner coming out of college would be in the $24 to $25 an hour range, and they go all the way up to senior planners are in the mid 30s. So that kind of gives you the wide range. But yeah, a junior planner coming out of college would be in that $24 to $25 an hour range. Yeah.
Thank you. And we also got a question of what are your hours like?
So hours here are for our department generally are Monday to Friday and 7:30 till 4, or 8 to 4:30. There's a little bit of a flex on hours. There is quite often overtime just because programs get behind. We need to work to catch up. But yeah, in general, it's kind of Monday to Friday, and then with overtime available.
And then Nicola, do we have time for one more question, or?
Oh yeah, for sure. What is the work environment like? I find that a really good question too, because I imagine I've seen IMP when you drive to the airport. It's a huge sort of hangar space. So like, what is it like when you're there?
It is. So for our department, the environment it's an office environment. So you are, you have a desk and a computer. Normally they're right off the hangar floor. And there's a lot of interaction in our department with production. So I've always told people, especially new to the company, coming out of a course like NSCC, we understand that you don't have an aircraft background, and that's totally fine. But as long as you're open to learning, this is the way you learn. And I always tell them there's no such thing as spending too much time with production. So if you need to go out and look at the aircraft and look at a problem that's being described by a technician in order to figure out what the repair is or how long it's going to take or what the steps are that's involved, absolutely. A good portion of a planner's time is spent with production, talking to the technicians, talking to the lead hands or the foreman, and trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to fix this problem on the aircraft? What do we need? How long will it take? Are there parts involved? That kind of thing. So it's your home base is an office with a desk and a computer, but it is dynamic in that you spend a lot of time on the aircraft with the technicians, learning learning the ropes, learning the aircraft, learning the technical manuals and the drawings and the documentation that goes with those aircraft.
That's fascinating. It's really cool what you do. I'm going to squeeze in one last question, Chris, and then we'll let you go. Thank you so much. As Brett said, it's been amazing having you here and learning more about IMP, Aerospace and Defense. What's your favorite thing about your job, and then maybe your not so favorite thing about the job?
Maybe it's the same answer for both. As a manager, it's probably people, really, to tell you the truth. You know, the different personalities. There are challenging personalities that you deal with. I mean, sometimes that's maybe my least favorite, but also the people aspect is my favorite part, because you know, you get to, there's an individual right now that works for me that from a succession point of view, you know, he's coming along, and just to see people progress through the different levels within the department and the potential that they have within the company, whether it's within our own department or whether it's, you know, another department altogether to gain additional skills. That's probably, you know, my favorite part, is to see people progress, see them succeed, because overall, and we do lose a lot of people from our department internally, like to other positions, because you know, working in planning or production engineering, you get exposure to a wide range of activities within the company, and you know, you become knowledgeable on different processes and that kind of thing. So seeing people succeed and go to other departments and be the best that they can be, or see them progress within our own department, I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of the job.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, again. Your chat was very insightful to all of us, and we appreciate you coming on and taking time out of your busy day.
No worries. Happy to do it anytime.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Okay.
I see that our next mentor is on the call, Matt Burke. Can you hear us, Matt?
Yes, hello.
Hi, Matt. Brett, do you want to introduce Matt as well?
Yes, of course. Matt, thank you so much for joining us at Junior Achievement here today. We're very excited to have you on, and you are a skills and development coach for like the welding and apprenticeship program at Urban Shipbuilding, correct? Correct, yeah. Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy day. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your role and what you do as your role as a skills and development coach? I'm very interested to hear about this.
Sure. Well, it's actually a relatively new role here at the shipyard. Really, our apprenticeship program, the last year, maybe 1 to 2 years, really under development itself. The skills coach role just came in just about a year ago. We have one for all of the trades at the shipyard. Essentially, what that is I'm a red seal welder by trade, and my role here as skills coach is I basically support all of our apprentice welders throughout their entire journey to getting the red seal. So I'm involved with recruitment activities, their onboarding when they first, apprentices first come in here, academic support. We do training exercises, on the job assistance, hands-on training, that sort of thing. We're involved with, like I said, outreach, recruitment, like I mentioned. So it's quite a wide range of duties, but essentially we're just there to support the apprentice throughout their whole journey to getting their red seal.
That's great. I'm going to step in, Matt, just to give the students on the call. So we have touched a little bit about apprenticeship opportunities with our former mentors, and we touched a little bit about Red Seal, but can you speak to what that actually means and what that entails in terms of your specific skilled trade for welding? Sure.
So your Red Seal, that's your professional designation per trade, like for your trade. So essentially, all the Red Seal trades, you would do an apprenticeship, which is a combination of on-the-job learning and then going back to school to do what they call your level training or your block training. And you go back and forth between school and work and keep upgrading your levels until you get to the end, and that's when you go for you do your Red Seal exam. and go for that certification. The Red Seal is a interprovincial certification, so it means that it's recognized all across the country. That's really the beauty of it, is that it can take you anywhere, and you never know never know where you'll end up. So it's that's a real benefit. As far as the welding goes, really what's involved in that, a typical sort of journey. Someone that took let's say they finished high school, they take a 2-year program at an NSCC welding diploma. You would be recognized, I believe you're a level 2 apprentice, meaning you would essentially go to work for about a year to 2 years, gain those hours, and then around 5,400 hours, you would go back to school for your level 3, and then you pass the level 3 exam, and then you'd go for your Red Seal. And for welders, it's a little different than most other trades. Welders actually have a practical examination as well as a written examination. So there's a series of welding tests, hands-on welding tests, that they'll spend almost a full day in a weld training center doing those tests, all different types of welding equipment. And they got to meet a certain standard. And then upon passing that, you would do the written exam.
Great. Thank you so much for your insight on that. We've done a couple of these junior achievement events over the past few years. We've been doing this virtual for, I think, about 2-3 years now. And we've had a few people from Urban Shipbuilding present to the students. I'm wondering what like the work environment is, and what's like your work environment, and what's the work environment at Urban Shipbuilding is. There's a lot of opportunities, especially in Nova Scotia with the company.
Sure. Well, we're a growing company, that's for sure. Just this quarter alone, we were looking to fire 400 tradespeople, and like I said, and it's continuing to grow. I think right now we have over 1,000 tradespeople here, another probably 1,000 to 1,500 supporting staff roles, whether that's in supervision, management, engineering, planning, safety, all that stuff. So and continuing to grow. We're as far as kind of what we're working on, what we do here, at the moment we have basically 2 projects on the go. And so we have a ship repair facility, and that's a continuous part of our business. Currently, we usually have 1, if not 2, of the Halifax class frigates, which are approximately around 30 years old now. So they're overdue. Their life expectancy was probably up 5-10 years ago. And then our project that we're doing as well is the AOPS program. And that's what they call the Arctic Offshore Patrol Ships. And we're building 6 of those for the Navy and 2 for the Coast Guard. And we're up to ship 4 is in the water, and ship 5 and 6 are in various stages of construction. So we're trying. Our ship repair facility is keeping our current Navy ships, keeping them, seaworthy, and then in the meantime, we're building new ships for the Navy. And then once we're done the 8 AOP ships, that's when the big project starts. And those are what they call the CSCs, the Canadian Surface Combatants. And these are the real warships. They're even going to be about 50 meters longer than the AOP ships. I believe the AOP ships are around 100 meters long. So the CSC is about 150 meters long. And we have the contract for up to about 15 of those. So we're looking at, it's a unique operation where we're looking at 30, 40, 50 years continuous work here. It's a real opportunity, not too many places where a tradesperson in Nova Scotia can come in and potentially do their whole career. So and as a tradesperson, as a welder, you're involved in almost all stages of construction. Even when the boat's in the water, and they're still they're getting ready to make that delivery to the Navy. There's still things popping up, that were missed or things that need to be tweaked. So you're involved with everything.
That's amazing, Matt. And we're talking about the opportunities within Nova Scotia, like real actual opportunities for youth and planning their career. And that Canadian Navy contract that we got here in Halifax a number of years ago now, that was huge, right? Like, it was just incredible for the economy of Nova Scotia. Can you speak to how that, were you at Irving Shipbuilding prior to that, and how that changed sort of, the demand for tradespeople in those trades?
Sure. Well, I guess maybe what I'll kind of just describe my journey a little bit, how I kind of ended up here. So I didn't have a typical journey. I I finished high school in 2007, and I ended up, I was a football player. I was looking at pursuing the university thing, and I ended up going down to Australia for a little bit and playing in the men's football league there, and sort of figuring out what I wanted to do. Then I ended up going to Bishop's University for 5 years. I'm a history major, and this was all before I even knew what welding was. And I went that route, and played football there, got my history degree. It was a great experience, and I certainly value that education. When I graduated, that was, and while I was in university, that's when things were really booming out west in the oil and gas sector, and that's where everybody was kind of flocking to at that time. And I had some friends of mine that did that and were doing quite well. But then that that's very much a boom and bust industry, right? When it's going, and then all of a sudden, unforeseen events in the world, and that really slows down. So that was still going strong when I was finishing university, and I went a few different directions, and nothing really kind of went the way I was hoping it was going to go. And that's when I decided to do a total career change. How I got into it was NSCC was actually offering a 7-week intro to stick welding course, just open to the public. So it was 2 nights a week during the summer, and I was working at Costco at the time, and so I was working early mornings there, and then I'd go over and figured, before I sign up for a 2-year program or something, why don't I go and see if I even like this? And I didn't really know much about welding, so I went and did that, and I actually really enjoyed it. I picked it up pretty good, and I was able to get into the full-time program the following fall. And that was right around, so when I get into the program, that's right around the time where things really slowed down out west. And but luckily, that's when things really started picking up in Nova Scotia. So it really worked out for me that way. It was kind of the right place at the right time. I finished NSCC. I got hired on at the shipyard as an apprentice. I did my whole apprenticeship here. Got my red seal in 2019. And then I continued to work on the tools for a few more years. And then eventually I applied and was promoted to the staff role, where now I sort of mentor and support all the apprentice welders.
That's a great journey. I love seeing or showcasing to students the ability to move and grow and progress through your career, change your decision, change your mind. And we've been talking about transferable skills, and I'm going to ask Brett too. We're going to guess what your most highly used transferable skill in your role would be, and I'm going to guess leadership. Brett, what do you think?
I would have guessed the exact same thing, along with communication.
Yeah, I would agree with that myself completely. I certainly, I think if there's maybe a theme to my story, it's your experiences, it doesn't matter what they are, if they don't maybe seem like they directly align with whatever role you're going towards. Your experiences matter, and they make you who you are. And whether it was for me, my role as a welder here, very much, you're on a team, you're on a crew, but a large part of your day is very much working alone. You have something to weld, and you're working away at it, and you're very much kind of in your own zone. But that being said, I was a football player, football coach for a while. I coached at Dalhousie University, and when I got into the staff role, well, now I'm overseeing over 60 welders. That leadership ability certainly helped me there, just like I did with my football players. The skills I gained with my degree, a lot of sort of analytical, my writing skills, that those transferred greatly into this role. It's quite a role where I said I could be doing some hands-on work with apprentice on the shop floor one moment, and I get a call that the Minister of Defense is coming for a tour, and they want to talk to the apprenticeship program, and I got to run upstairs and put on a clean shirt and go get to the boardroom. So, like I said, all these skills certainly contribute to what I'm doing today. And so I think that's a good point to make, is don't your life experiences will always play a role in what you're doing.
That's a great piece of advice. I'm going to invite students and teachers to ask Matt some questions. We have another minute or so through the chat. Brett, is there anything that we've missed that you think we should ask Matt?
I think a good thing, and we've heard fellow people at Irving Shipbuilding talk about this and how it's really great there. But can you talk a little bit about your work-life balance?
Sure. So we are a typical sort of 40 Monday to Friday, 40 hours per week, sort of operation. We have multiple shifts. We operate around the clock though. We have a day shift. We have what they call a night shift, which is currently 5 p.m. till 1 a.m. And then we have that traditional back shift, which is midnight to 7:30 a.m. So you, as an employee, you can, a trades employee, you can request to be on any one of those particular shifts. So in that sense, there is a lot of opportunity for that kind of work-life balance. There's depending on, there's people that would think, midnight to 7:30 a.m. I would never want to do that, but for some people that's ideal depending on their situation or working night shift. We have people that, for childcare reasons, maybe one parent works, during the day, the other one works the night shift, and someone's always home. So what opportunity there. It's overtime is not, we do have overtime here, but it's voluntary. Like you have to put in it's a unionized environment. So if you do want to work overtime and there's overtime being offered, everybody, you put in a volunteer form and it goes by seniority. And if you're selected, you get those shifts, but there's no forced overtime. You can pretty much count on always having your weekends off if you want. And if you want to, volunteer to work, you can do that as well.
Thank you so much for your insight on the matter. We got a few questions from the chat. The first one being is, what are the hourly wages for welders at different levels?
Sure. So our apprentices, and again, this is across all the trades here, depending on what level you're at, our apprentices are between I think if you come in, the lowest level is 29 an hour, and a top level apprentice is around 37 per hour. Then our Red Seal rate right now is 43 per hour. And then there's actually premiums if you work on night shift or back shift, as well as a different skill premium. So if you take in certain training courses here, there's actually premiums added on to your wage as well. So there's a lot of people, a lot of tradespersons here that are making close to $50 an hour. And that's something that is very attainable within, within maybe 4 years of leaving high school. If you were to go right into an NSCC and come to the shipyard and work for a couple of years through your apprenticeship, within 3 to 5 years of you're already hitting that rate. So it's very achievable.
That's amazing. We have another question. What other trades are involved in shipbuilding?
Sure. So we have millwrights, pipe fitters, electrical. I mean, honestly, pretty much most of the trades. Metal fabrication. Those are the big ones here. We have. I'm trying to think. When we get into the CSC project, I think there's going to be a more demand for plumbers as well. And then we also have a lot of subcontractors that they pretty much work in here full time, even though they're not Irving employees, but to be other companies that we bring in here. Like we have a company that does a lot of our, on the ship, a lot of sort of the carpentry and the finishing work. So they're called Gabati, and it's a company that they do a lot of more or less carpentry work, fine finishing work. So once we go in and the ship's all steel and we go weld it together and the pipes are in, the electrical systems are in, and then it's time to put the nice walls, to hide all those wires in behind. That's the type of company they bring in. So there's a lot of sort of indirect trades as well that are all in the shipyard.
That's great, Matt. I'm going to give you one more question, just to speak to for the students. And one of our mentors earlier was a young female carpentry assistant. Can you speak to how? And I'm pretty sure Irving Shipbuilding Shipbuilding has a lot of initiatives to bring females into trade and support them in the workplace. Can you speak a little bit about how that dynamic is changing in terms of the demographic of the workforce?
Sure. So I don't know the stat offhand, but our as far as like our female trades workers, we are well above the national average. And I want to say it's even like triple or quadruple the national average. There's programs out there. I mean, we recruit everybody. You know, there's no discrimination that way. And in fact, in particular, in my trade, welding, women typically make very good welders. I don't know what it is. It's attention to detail or just something like dexterity stuff. But you know, welding is very it's quite a craft, and some of the best welders I've come across are women. But of course, we have them across all trades. You know, everybody's welcome. There's programs out there that we support. One called Women's Unlimited, and like I said, I don't have all the details offhand on that, but I do know that's a program that supports getting more women in the trades. And I believe there's a lot of like financial incentives, and they'll support you through school and stuff. And we partner with them, and as well as a Pathways program, which I believe they deal with the African Nova Scotians and other underrepresented groups, getting them, supporting them through school and getting them involved in the trade. At the moment, we have just on Friday, we took on 50 to 60 NSC students doing their 5-week work term. And so they'll be here at the shipyard, supervised by us. And then there's a good, very large possibility that a lot of them will be offered employment with us when they're done their work term.
That's amazing. That's super. Thanks so much, Matt. Thanks for taking the time. I do want to let students and teachers know that Irving Shipbuilding and Matt are going to be present at the Showcase of Career Paths. So if you have more questions about, you know, getting on or future opportunities at Irving Shipbuilding, you can touch base with Matt there shortly.
And I'll be bringing a few of my colleagues with me too. So different skills coaches.
Super. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Matt.
Oh, my pleasure.
Okay. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
So that takes care of the featured mentor portion of our event today. I do have a number of thank yous to share. So if you just give me a moment, as you can imagine, there are a lot of people who have come on board to support Junior Achievement Nova Scotia in being able to deliver this program today, and I just want to make sure that we showcase them and do a shout out for them. So if you can see that, first of all, a huge thank you to our national community partner, RBC. We also have a few other national supporting partners to Junior Achievement Nova Scotia, Amazon, Avanade, and KPMG. Thank you to our local supporters. So these are companies, organizations, individuals that came on board to support us in this event, either financially through a gift or by providing volunteers to support this program for you. So IMP Aerospace and Defense, NSCC, the Irving Shipbuilding Apprenticeship Program, Coltech Windows and Entrance Systems, Port Hawkesbury Paper, Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency, Halifax Transit, and O'Regan's, as well as Michelin and Bruno Group of Builders, which we will speak to soon. So for the next 10 minutes, what I'd like to ask is the teachers have been given some paper surveys to get some feedback from our students with regard to your experience this morning, how you found it valuable or what you may have learned. And I do have a slide here to share with you just to explain to you the importance of your feedback to us and how that helps us deliver programs within Nova Scotia. And if teachers can take a few minutes to have students complete those surveys. Now, at the end of that, we will have a virtual live incentive draw, where you can have an opportunity to win a $150 Visa gift card for your class for taking the time to give us your feedback. So we're able to deliver World of Choices at no cost to schools or students due to the generous support of our funders and partners whom I just mentioned. In order to be able to continue providing these programs, it is essential that our funders receive feedback on the value to you, the students. And now we'll take 10 minutes, if you could, to do those surveys. If your teacher doesn't have them on hand, we do have the QR here if you want to do it, or you're able to do it on your phone. I'll also put the link in the chat for teachers to share that if they can. And what I'll ask is, as you're doing the surveys, or as they're coming to completion, if you could just put the name of your school and, oh, sorry about that, the name of your school and your class in the chat, then I will be able to enter you into the virtual live draw for the $150 Visa gift card. And I'll put that link in the chat now. Thank you, New Germany, Rural High, and Rankin School of the Narrows, grade 8-10 health. I have to get my, I'm going to try and share a random draw wheel here for the anticipation and excitement of the draw. So bear with me as I share that with you. Brett, I'm going to spin the wheel, and if you can see that, I'm going to ask you when it stops to announce the winner.
Yep, of course.
All set, let's go.
And the winner is Spring Hill Junior and Senior High, the grade 10-02 class.
Super, that is great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, teachers, for doing this for us. As I mentioned, it is quite important for our funders to get the feedback from you. Again, no rush. You can complete those whenever, and you'll have another opportunity to be entered into an additional $150 Visa gift card draw once the paper surveys are returned to the office, and those that did digital surveys, everyone listed will be able to be re-entered for that as well.